Thank you, Shad. Thank you, Bill Bullard. Thank you for RCAF for the opportunity to speak. Yes, I want to recognize my friend and mentor, Kimmy Clark Lewis. She was the inspiration for me to stand up to Canyons and Plains Nature Conservancy, Palmer Land Trust, and defeat the NHA. But also I want to recognize the shoes I'm filling today of Dr. Angus McIntosh, who passed away a year ago in June. So I have some shoes to fill today. I have a clicker here that I need to use. So the first slide is Angel Cushing of Lyon County, Kansas, and I formed a group called Western Region Property Rights Coalition. And this is a photograph of our meeting at Waukene, Trego County, Kansas, and that's Tatum Lee speaking. We had over 500 people at that meeting to oppose the Kansas, Nebraska heritage area. And standing next to her is Angel Cushing. So we have a Facebook page. We also have a www.westernregionpropertyrightscoalition.com website. But today I'm speaking about what they covet. No institution is more covetous than government. Whatever Caesar sees, he covets. If he can't take what he sees outright, then he will regulate it to his own satisfaction by whatever means available. What does it mean to covet? To covet is to feel inordinate desire for what belongs to another. Who is they? Well, there's a movie called The Wild Bunch from 1969 with William Holden and Ernest Borgnine and Ben Johnson and Warren Oates. And it's a movie about a bunch of bank robbers who had to shoot their way out of a Texas border town after a bank robbery. And they lose about half their number, and they get to a rendezvous point where they have fresh horses, and they're going to divide up the loot. And so they whack open the bags of coins, and Ben Johnson reaches down and picks up, and he says, "Silver rings." And Ernest Borgnine says, "Silver rings your butt, them's washers." And Warren Oates says, "Washers, washers. We shot our way out of that town for $1 worth of steel holes." And William Holden says, "They set it up." They? Who in the hell is they? And the old guy they had holding their fresh horses, played by Edmund O'Brien, laughed, and he says, "They? Why, they's the plain and fancy they. That's who they is. Caught you, didn't they? Tied a tin can to your tail, waltzed you in, and led you out again. My big tough ones, they. Here you stand around with holes in your hand to thumb up your rear end and a big grin to pass the time of day with. They? Who in the hell is they?" Well, in the movie, they were Pinkerton detectives and bounty hunters who set up the ambush. In 2022, sorry to say, they are the federal government. The federal government's pushing 30 by 30 through Biden's executive order. But how many times do American taxpayers have to be a tin can tied to your tail and let in and waltzed out again? You got to wear a mask, it'll protect you from the virus. Got to get vaxxed, it'll protect you from the virus. It was a big lie. We were a tin can tied to our tail, waltzed in and waltzed out again, and come out with a big grin. What do they covet? Your land, your county, your municipality, your landscape, your water, your property rights to manage your farm, ranch, and business the way you see fit, your schools. They're called, what they're going to do with this? They're called public-private partnerships. They should really be called government-private partnerships. Who in this government partnership always has the greater power? The government. They provide the funding, the federal oversight, and they print the money. According to American Stewards of Liberty, the essential points to know about 30 by 30 is it is being aggressively advanced by radical environmental activists under the Biden administration using the politically motivated climate crisis agenda to gain control of the land. There's no constitutional or statutory authority for the President or the Department of Interior or the Department of Agriculture to set aside and permanently preserve 30% of the land. American stewards of liberty say American landowners are the best stewards of the land while producing food, fiber, minerals, and energy this country depends upon to create wealth, defend our liberties, and live free. Long before 30 by 30, Soil and Water Conservation Plan, W.R. Bud Kincaide, our farm in 1976. He was being the steward of our farm in 1976 by having his soil tested, the irrigated cropland tested, the pasture land tested. He was taking care of our property, and there was a follow-up plan. Oh, wrong one. There's 1976, 1979, W.R. Bud Kincaide. And in that plan is a schematic for the construction of a tailwater pit so he could conserve water. This is my dad's responsibility to our farm. But also, from 1970 to 1989, I didn't put this in a slide, we're looking at rising interest rates. And this is an operating loan for $135,000 for a one-year operating loan. What is the interest rate? March 13th, 1981. Anybody? Anybody? 19% interest that my dad signed a note. And Mom said one year they paid $48,000 in interest and $500 on the principal, and you cannot run a business like that because you're not reinvesting, you're paying the bank for the privilege to run business. 1983, my dad sat across from the banker, and he said, "Mr. Kincaide, we cannot loan you any more money." And Mom said your dad sat there in shock. He had to sign over the farm to the bank. And they gave him the grace of a farm equipment sale, even though all the equipment, everything was listed as collateral. This is my dad's responsibility. A federal government that refuses to perform the basics of securing our southern border, failing to win a war after 20 years of combat while leaving military equipment worth billions of dollars in enemy hands, failing to provide a coherent policy for controlling a pandemic, and hasn't demonstrated any respect for the revenue provided by the taxpayers for decades, does not need to be, farmers and ranchers and property owners do not need to voluntarily give up their property rights for the sake of the 30 by 30 plan. It's a government unworthy of any kind of contribution in that matter. Harriet Hageman already addressed the issue of 30-30 needs to be addressed through legislative action. I attended the Stop 30 by 30 Summit in Lincoln, Nebraska, and some of the issues that came forward. Will Caven, Chairman, Chaves County, New Mexico Board of County Commissioners, illustrated the problems of having a total of 58% of Chaves County and 47% of New Mexico controlled by the state and federal government. There's a push to create more wilderness areas, protect lesser prairie chicken, shut down oil and gas exploration, and on and on. These examples only touch a few of the issues. And how were they going to use national heritage areas in this effort? When I teamed up with folks from Kansas and Nebraska to fight the Kansas-Nebraska heritage area, it so happened that Biden passed his executive order 30 by 30, and we combined that with our opposition with the NHAs. And Governor Pete Ricketts said, why wouldn't the Biden administration use everything in his toolbox, including NHAs, to implement 30 by 30? Well, the proponents of the NHA, that's not fair. NHAs don't have anything to do with 30 by 30. Well, I didn't find this little bit of information until a year later. This is Brenda Barrett, editor of the Living Landscape Observer, March 3rd, 2021. National Heritage Areas Act, now is the time. Quote, NHAs can advance the new administration's commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion by telling nationally important stories. These stories celebrate and reflect on the complexity of our national heritage area mosaic and can at times be challenging to share. To quote further, to address the threat of climate change and loss of biodiversity, the new administration has signed on to the ambitious conservation goal to protect 30% of U.S. lands and coastal areas by 2030. Given the scope of this initiative, it cannot be achieved without engaging multiple partners and private landowners in this effort. While they do not directly undertake land conservation, NHAs have pioneered effective partnership models that provide stewardship outcomes. NHAs have also been shown to increase a regional sense of place and a sense of pride, as well as an understanding of the need for connectivity and a framework for land-scale conservation. And a year later, on March 5th, 2022, Ms. Barrett writes, the traditional models of protected area management, largely top-down and antagonistic towards the lived-in landscapes, are simply not adequate to address the needs of a world confronting climate change, urbanization, and the loss of biodiversity, as well as the long overdue reckonings on racial justice and colonialism. Ms. Barrett was the national coordinator for national heritage areas from 2001 to 2007, during which she provided national coordination with the National Park Service for the then 49 congressionally designated national heritage areas, including budget and financial oversight, program administration, policy development, and coordination across the agency's 6 offices. Do you think Biden wouldn't use the NHAs to promote anything under the 30 by 30, including diversity, equity, and inclusion? Those in government want more government. Those who were in government still want more government because they see it as an opportunity to grow. My experience has been with opposing three national heritage areas. As Shad explained, the first was in southeast Colorado, and that was quite a ride because I had been a member of Canyons and Plains for 4 years and I watched them. And I said, why are they promoting southeast Colorado as a tourist area when all they had was Bent's Old Fort and the newly founded Sand Creek Massacre site? So I watched them for 4 years. I finally found out what the scam was on February 14th, 2013, when they had a presentation by the National Park Service Intermountain Region. But first, the secretary, the board member of Canyons and Plains, Gene Fenter Snyder, said, I have an important announcement to make. Our organization has developed to the certain extent that we can step up to the level of becoming a national heritage area. And my jaw dropped, and there I had a handful of rings in my hand and a big grin across my face because I had never heard those words in the 4 years I attended their meetings. And I sat across from a National Park Service superintendent who knew about this and never disclosed that to me while I was on the Otero County Historic Preservation Advisory Board. You think that made my Scots-Irish blood boil? Well, when Kimmy Lewis founded Southeast Colorado Private Property Rights Council, I was more than ready to help her because I focused all of my intellectual energy onto beating these people who withheld information from me for 4 years. And why? I can only speculate because I wrote 2 articles about Canyons and Plains and the Park Service for the Rocky Ford Daily Gazette in February and March 2009. So maybe they were afraid to tell me because I might go to J.R. Thompson and Laura Thompson at the Rocky Ford Gazette. You know what all this busy work is doing in southeast Colorado? That's only my speculation. It took us 7 months to defeat them, but the strange thing was we didn't know that we broke their lines within 60 days of our opposition. What happened was Canyons and Plains and the National Park Service Intermountain Region signed an agreement on January 13, 2014 to undertake the feasibility study. Canyons and Plains paid the National Park Service Intermountain Region an initial payment of $10,000 from a grant they got from Gates Family Foundation, and that's Gates Rubber Company, Denver, Colorado, to conduct a feasibility study. We didn't find out until September of that year that the Park Service pulled out from doing the feasibility study as of March 6, 2014. Here is an example of your government-private partnership where the government was paid money to do their job and they ran away. It's no wonder, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't won a war since September 2nd, 1945. that government people who get paid by you folks who pay taxes can't even do their job. And when I found that out, and I also found out that the superintendent from the National Park Service, who was on the board with me, knew about this National Heritage Area in August 2007. She wrote a report on the initial founding of Sand Creek Massacre Site stating the Park Service is working towards designation with the Southeast Colorado Tourism Group for National Heritage Area designation, August 2007. So ladies and gentlemen, that made my Scots-Irish blood boil even more. And I don't know where I heard this about the Scots-Irish when they take on a fight. If your fight is dirty, we'll get you a dirty fight. If your fight is fair, we'll get you a fair fight. So I was bound and determined to give him a dirty fight. Make it all legal, but make it dirty. So we won that one. And next comes Cascade County, Montana. And a lady named Ray Grolkowski contacted Chad Sullivan, and she wanted to know what she could do about countering an NHA that was going to cover Cascade County. And they already had a feasibility study in place. And so Chad said, well, you need to contact Norm Kincaide or Barb Leininger. And 2020 was an awful year. I had some health issues, and so I cleared them up by October. And I said, you're all coming up to Cascade County and give a presentation at the King's Arena. But the main point was, I met with Jim Larson, one of the county commissioners, Cascade County, and on the Board of County Commissioners was the president of Big Sky Country NHA, a retired employee of the Forest Service, named Jane Weber, and she was a proponent of the NHA. So what do we do about this? I said, well, craft a resolution opposing, put it on the agenda and see what happens. So I gave him a template of the Baca County, Colorado Board of County Commissioners resolution. So they crafted a resolution, and on December 8th, they had a vote and waited to see if Jane Weber would recuse herself from the vote since she was president of Big Sky Country NHA. She refused to recuse herself from the vote. The resolution opposing Big Sky passed 2-1. And after the vote, she resigned. And now Ray Grolkowski is running for that seat of county commissioner in Cascade County. Now comes the big one, Kansas-Nebraska Heritage Area Partnership. A lady named Kathy Wilmot contacted me in December 2020, and she wondered she could oppose this 49 county National Heritage Area to cover 26 counties in Kansas and 23 counties in Nebraska. And she had first heard about this in a Kearney Hub article that there was potential for an NHA in Kansas, Nebraska. So I said, let me look this over Christmas. So I went to their Facebook page and I studied everybody who was on there, and it was provided more information about their board than Canyons and Plains. We're hard pressed to find out who was on the board of Canyons and Plains. But the first thing that jumped out to me was we have a diverse board of 13 members. Diverse board is a progressive statement. And I said, oh, easy meat. So I came up with a plan. I said, Kathy, we need to mail. I think most of the boards of county commissioners in these 49 counties don't know anything about this NHA. So let's do a mailing. Let's mail a copy of my book and stapled material to all the boards of county commissioners, and I could get an authored copy of my book for $6.25. And Jim at the Rocky Ford Post Office said, Norm, I can save you some money. If you send your book separate and your stapled material separate, it costs you like $6.25. If you mail them together, it's $11.75. I said, thank you, Jim. We'll mail them separate. So we mailed those starting in, I had to order 50 copies of my book. Started mailing about the middle of February, finishing about the second week in March, and I watched their Facebook page for a reaction. And all of a sudden, from discussing tourism in Kansas, Nebraska, they're explaining what NHAs are. And then Angel Cushing, through Tatum Lee, contacted me and says, I'm supposed to give a presentation in Mankato, Jewell County on March 22nd. Can you help me out? And I said, well, you want me to come out? Yes. And then she messaged me a little later and says, how many days can you be gone? And I said, well, when? Like the middle of April. And so I said 10. So not only that was I going out to Mankato, Kansas, she arranged 9 venues in 9 days for public meetings. And I said, oh man, nine venues in 9 days. The first one was in Red Cloud, Nebraska. And Kathy Wilmot says, Norm, that's the hotbed of the NHA. That's where the Willa Cather Foundation is. They're the ones who started all this with Mark Engler at the Homestead National Monument and Kim Wilson, professor of landscape architecture at University of Nebraska. I said, do you want to start there? And I said, well, you know, brave man jumped into Normandy on June 6th. We're going to jump into Red Cloud and get it done. And then we went to Hebron, Nebraska. Then we went to Hill City, Kansas. Then back up to Grand Island, Nebraska, down to Vesper, Lincoln County, Kansas, Abilene, Kansas, Clay Center, finally Trego County, and then up to Norton, Kansas. The biggest crowd we had was at Waukene, Trego County, Kansas. I was amazed, and there were 4 state representatives from the Kansas legislature there. It was wonderful. It was a tour through the heartland of the United States. And you think the progressive left hates the heartland of this country? They do, because you're efficient, you're productive, and you're profitable. And you hold the traditions of this country dearly to your hearts. And that, after the Norton County meeting, an individual approached us and suggested we back off, and told us essentially that all our 9 days of work were worth nothing, and when we promoted passing resolutions by boards of county commissioners. Well, we listened to this individual and we didn't say anything, but we huddled together with our team and said, no, we're not going to back off. So we had a second series of meetings in May of 2021, 6 venues in 7 days. And we found out toward the end of April, Kansas-Nebraska Heritage Area Partnership suspended operations on their Facebook page, stating, oh, we have a prearranged break for the summer. And then we found out an article that said they lost 5 board members, 4 resigned and 1 retired. And poor Kim Wilson was saying they were run ragged. I thought, wow. Ladies and gentlemen, you never back off. If someone comes to tell you, oh, why you better back off. You can listen to them politely, and when they go away, you throw that in the trash can. And what we did after that, Angel Cushing filed a Freedom of Information Act request at the end of April. We got that on the 14th of July, and it was a PDF with live links into Kansas-Nebraska Heritage Area Partnerships document cloud. It was the mother lode of documents. It told us everything we needed to know, how they were going to raise their money and how they were going to use student work hours as in-kind contributions toward their nonprofit and for application for grants. And this is the other thing that got me, a quote from their February 2021 minutes, why they didn't have public meetings. And it says, not worth our while to hold public meetings until the feasibility study is in place, because that's when it will count. So the people out in the counties and the county commissioners would be the last to know. Well, we thought everybody should know. So Angel Cushing built an email list of all the county clerks of those 49 counties, and she sent that PDF to county clerks who shared it with all the boards of county commissioners, because if you want to be publicly funded by the American taxpayers and local funding sources, everybody needs to know your business. Those live links, it was a mother lode of documents for a PhD in history. It was wonderful to read the opposition mail. And I forgot to bring it. I have the whole stack, 400 pages, and I left the folder in my room. But, ladies and gentlemen, Kathy Wilmot from Beaver City, Nebraska, is now running for the Board of Regents for the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. These people were wonderful to work with. I never met them. A small team of people who had never worked together, and I never met these people. We beat a diverse board of 13 members, 2 of which are professors from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your kind attention. Oh, there's one more thing. One more thing. Oh. That map you saw with all the red dots, that's called the bingo map. For every county that passed a resolution, we kept a running tally. We put a red dot on there. It had more shares on our Facebook page than anything else. The folks loved the bingo map. So this was created by students at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln for Kansas-Nebraska Heritage Area Partnership, and they objected us using it. But ladies and gentlemen, this is parody. We used it for a bingo map. So being worse than challenged is when you become a laughing stock. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.